Well, hey, what is up? The 11:45. Hey, it's good to see you guys and welcome Liverpool One Church, and a special warm welcome, right? If you're here perhaps for the first time, if you're checking things out online, a welcome to you guys. Just let us know who you are in the chat right now. That would be awesome, right?
Yes, amazing. But guys, it's been a great week because things are starting to open up.
Come on.
Life is looking a little bit normal. And I know for us, we're having a bit of a life change right now because we're more excited that soft play is open than the pubs. So all the parents will understand who've got little kids. So things are looking good. But that does mean that church will look a little bit different as well, which is a great thing. So Nathan, as of next week, what are some of the changes?
So as of next week, you'll find this today at 2 p.m. when you go on to book your tickets, you'll be able to book a 6-group ticket. In other words, you'll be able to get into a bubble of 6 people you know, people in your world. So that means you can come to church. Perhaps historically you didn't want to come by your own, so now you can come and be part of the family and just feel like it's getting a little bit closer to back being normal, isn't it? So hey, today at 2 p.m. you can do that. You can secure your tickets for next week. And also we have the original option for the household ticket as well, just in case you're not quite ready to make that step. But yeah.
Amazing. And one more change, which is really exciting, is that life groups are being back in person. Some of them will happen here at the church building. Some of them will happen in the gardens of those who lead them. So things are really looking great. And hey, if it's your first time here or you're joining us, it's never too early to join a life group. So hey, you are so welcome. Get involved in them small groups because they are such a great way to be a part of this church.
We love life groups. So good. Be part of the family, right?
Yeah.
Be part of the family. But hey guys, you have joined us on a great Sunday because we're in the middle of a fantastic series called Shame Off You. I don't know about you, I've just been finding it so encouraging, so uplifting. But hey, maybe you know someone in your world that you could perhaps share the link with on YouTube, online, maybe afterwards. Hey, why don't you do that this week and encourage someone with the great message that's going to come today. But hey, I'm excited for it. Are you?
Yes. But guys, if you're in the room, let's stand on our feet. We're going to worship in today as we welcome you to Liverpool One Church.
It's so great to have you, but we're going to worship together. Why don't you join us? I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures of faith are never enough. Came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing
battle you've already won. You've already won. There is no weapon that has ever left a mark on you. There is no army with the power to conquer truth. You've always been with us. Every battle you've already won. You've already won. Show me one thing he can do. Show me a mountain he can move. He's the God of the breakthrough. Anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough. Anything is possible. There is a kingdom that's advancing at the speed of light. And in his kingdom, every dead thing is bound to rise. Oh God, our Redeemer, he is faithful to revive. Oh, he will revive. Show me one thing he can't do. Show me a mountain he can't move. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. Show me one thing that's too hard. Show me waters he can't part. He's the God of the breakthrough, and anything is possible. It's possible. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment and break every chain. Now all of my fear I will turn into praise. Shake off despair as I sing out your name. A victory dance I will dance out in faith. I will crush disappointment. Show me one thing he can do.
Liverpool One Church, it is so great to have you with us. Hello, the 11:45. It is great to see your beautiful faces, and whether you're in the room or joining us online, amazing to have you as part of the family. We're in a series right now called Shame Off You, and I guess if I was to very quickly try and bring you all up to speed about some of the things that we've been discussing over the last number of weeks, is we've been talking about this idea about how do you move past your past? Like, how do you successfully enable yourself to leave whatever mistakes, whatever has hindered you, whatever you feel like you've screwed up with, disappointed someone in your past? How do you move past your past and move into your future with great expectation that what is ahead of you can be better than all that is behind you? So we're going to be continuing that theme and that idea today in part 3. Speaking of 3, let me tell you that there are 3 days that your body can go without food. There are 3 days that your body can go without water. And there are 3 minutes that your body can go without oxygen, without any type of adverse effects. But do you know that your body, it's so clever, your body can't even go 3 seconds without having a thought. Like, when it comes to your thinking, when it comes to your mind, like you and I, we are constantly active. We are always on it. We are always thinking. We are always considering about the world that's around us, what's happening to us, and interpreting all of this information. Like, your mind and your brain is such an incredible organism in your body. Now, David, who wrote Psalm 23, speaks about this idea about thinking. And he makes this statement in Psalm 23, verse 7. He says that as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. In other words, that as a man thinks, so he builds his life. As a man thinks, he's able to build and create and establish not only his thoughts, but how his life actually ends up looking. Now, this is interesting to me because for years and years and years, scientists, neurologists used to think that your thinking and the way in which you would consider your thought processes was not really a choice, but rather it was dependent upon other peripheral external circumstances around you shaping the way you think. But David, quite clearly in the Psalms, believed that you think first, and out of your thought life, you then build your life. Well, what's fascinating to me is that even though for literally decades, scientists, neurologists have always believed that kind of like what happens on the external affects how you think, now they're actually choosing to believe, and all of the research and all of the papers and all of the case studies prove this. They're now saying, actually, no, what David was saying all along is absolutely right. Like, you think first. You choose the way you think. Even though you think that if you have a bad day, you're going to think bad thoughts in the same way that if you're having a good day, you'll think good thoughts. Actually, what the science and the medical experts on this issue will now say is, no, you choose the way you think. Like, you're not a victim of what's going on around you. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're not a victim of something happening to you once upon a time, and now that's going to affect the way you think throughout your entire life, because the way that you think is a choice. But this does leave us with a problem. And the problem is that if you think wrong, then what you end up building in your life is probably not going to be what you were hoping for or believing for. If your thinking gets a little bit faulty and out of sync, out of alignment, as mine does, as yours probably does too, what that in essence means is that if the way that we think is a choice, and if our thinking is faulty and we're choosing the wrong thoughts, it means that we're going to end up building the wrong type of life that we were hoping for or expecting. Now, how often have you been guilty of faulty thinking? Like, how many times has there been where maybe you've thought something about someone, but it's later proved out to have just been completely incorrect? How many times have you thought away about a particular set of circumstances, but then upon some conversation and upon asking some questions, doing some digging around, you find out actually your thinking was wrong all along? I mean, this happens almost weekly, I think, for some of us. Like, how many of us might be able to recount a story that would be similar to somebody having a sit-down meeting with their boss, and their boss saying one line or one word or one statement, And that's what you walk away reminiscing on. Like they say, one thing that could just be interpreted as slightly negative, and that's the thing that you end up holding on to. And now because of that one thing your boss has said in a meeting, well, the way that you think about your boss is starting to change. Now, you don't like your boss. And now not only do you not like your boss, but you find it really hard to interact with all of your work colleagues because that just feels weird because you don't think that you've got a future there in the company anymore, and there's other things that you should be doing, there are other things that you could be doing, and you're frustrated that you've not got the opportunity that really you believe should have come your way. And it all starts to turn your thinking into this like negative, biased down thought process, and you don't want to be that way, but you are that way, and it just makes your whole world become super negative really, really quickly. And then what's even funnier is like months later, or sometimes even a year later, you have a sit-down meeting with your boss again, and you bring up the thing that he said ages ago, and it doesn't even register on his radar. He's like, no, you might have heard that, but that's not what I meant. You've got the wrong end of the stick. You're mistaken. And then you kind of go, man, I've spent a whole year being angry and negative and frustrated and biased down about my boss and the company and about the thing. And all along, I didn't need to be thinking like that. But not only does it happen in the workplace, it happens in and amongst our relationships too. Our marriages, our friendships. It's really easy to sometimes think that maybe like are they being funny with me? Like, have they just not liked anything on my Instagram for like over a month now? Like, are they avoiding me? Are they being weird with me? And it just feels to you that like relationally, something's getting a little bit more distant. Things feel like they're breaking down somewhat, and you've got no clue why. So now, in your opinion, you feel like, well, they're not inviting you to the party, they're not inviting you to the thing that everybody else is, so you start to feel negative towards that person. Well, I don't want to be their friend anyway, and they were never a real friend in the first place, and you have this biased down approach and way of thinking about someone that used to be so close to you. And then a few months later, you meet them in town and you're having a conversation and you say, have you been being funny with me? And they're like, no, I haven't been funny with you at all. It was just I was studying for the thing, I was applying for the job, and it just consumed all of my time. Or I had something going on in my health, or there's a family member that was going through something and they just absorbed all of my energy. There was nothing from my end. And what we see is that we've got tendencies to have faulty thinking towards people, towards situations, and we do it all the time. This lockdown has not helped at all. Distance creates division. It's really easy, isn't it, to maybe think bad or ill and have wrong thought processes and faulty thinking about people, especially when you're not in the same close proximity as perhaps you used to be. And now because of social distancing, it feels like everything's changing for you, and it's just frustrating. And you're like, are they being funny with me? Are they being weird with me? And then you start to look at other people's life, and more negative thinking starts, like, how come they've got the job? How come they've got the holiday, the car, the thing? Like, why am I not getting what they have? And the more you look at what they've got, the more it increases faulty thinking in your own mind, and you're like, what is going on? Getting the wrong end of the stick, though, is a huge problem for us when it comes to dealing with shame in our life. Because when your thinking is faulty, when the way that you think is just kind of a little bit broken, it really does stop you from being able to move past your past. Like maybe you're the individual and maybe you feel bad about something, or maybe you even feel disappointed in you or saddened that somebody else is disappointed within you, and that creates a load of negative thinking. The more you think on that, the more it drives you mad, the more it drives you crazy, the more harder it becomes for you to move past your past. That's why today I want to talk to you about this whole concept of shame off you. But from the premise of, how do you deal with shame when it happens in your life as a result of faulty thinking? Like maybe you're carrying the weight of shame because the way that you've been thinking about something has just been a little bit wrong and a little bit off track. Because science tells us that nothing happens unless you think first. Which on one hand is a little bit of a worry, I'm not gonna lie. Because those moments when you have that argument with your wife or your husband, or maybe as a parent with one of your kids, and somebody shouts out something that later you kind of regret and you wish you could take back, but you can't. Then what do you do about that statement that you've just said? You say, well, I wasn't really thinking about that when I said it. Well, the science says it's not possible. Like every time you act, every time you do something, it happens as a result of you thinking about it. Now, granted, 80% of your mind is busy in the non-conscious, in the subconscious. So 80% of your mind happens on a level that's so fast, so quick, that often you're not even aware of it. But if you said it, if it came out of your mouth, you have thought about it. You have considered it. And that's what the research tells us. It says that everything in life starts with a thought. You think first, signals are generated, and then changes in your physical brain actually happen. Just think about that for a moment. Every time you and I have a thought or create a memory, signals occur and changes in your brain happen. Even right now, as I'm speaking to you, your brain is physically changing shape. There is things physically happening in your brain right now in terms of how you're responding to the information that I'm presenting to you. Signals happen, changes are made. And what this tells us is this: you cannot control the things that happen in your life, but you can control what you think about what happens in your life. You can control how you look at something. You can control negativity. You can control that overwhelming feeling of disappointment. You can control how you think, even though you can't control the elements that often change around you. You know, this is how your brain actually looks on the inside. Let me try and give you an illustration. But if I were to try and map out what your brain looks like when you're thinking, when it's healthy and when it's stable and when it's strong, your brain is kind of like a tree or a plant with loads of shoots and loads of branches. And every single time you have a thought, your brain is growing. It is creating. It is moving. Nothing stays the same. What actually happens is these signals are created that unzips your DNA, and then proteins are created, and that causes your brain to physically grow. I mean, crazy, isn't it? I mean, inside your brain, and if this were your brain right here, there are over 100 million neurons, and that makes up approximately 20% of your brain. But the remaining 80% is all made up of nerve cells. And on the end of these nerve cells, these nerve endings, is where all of these memories and all of these thought processes, like root to, run to, and are contained within. Your brain is this absolutely amazing organ. Your memories grow on the ends of your nerve cells, which is pretty impressive to me, because I kind of have thought, well, what happens if you have too many thoughts that you kind of outgrow your own brain? Well, what's interesting is that your brain has got room for in excess of 3 million years worth of thoughts and memories to be created within it. That's in your head. That's how smart you are. No matter what anyone's ever told you, no matter what the teacher said, like, that is how ingeniously you have been made by our Maker in heaven. That's contained within your brain. But the problem is though, even though that's how our brain is supposed to look, green and healthy, not your brain is green, but if this were the picture of your brain, like healthy and life-giving, when you think on good thoughts and not negative thoughts, when you don't have faulty thinking, the way in which your brain grows looks healthy. And when you're making smart thoughts, you end up making smarter choices, and you end up building a healthier life, because as a man thinks, so he is. But not everybody experiences this all of the time. And one of the main reasons why your brain might not at times be strong and healthy and flourishing and growing like a plant and a tree is because of negative thoughts. And negative thoughts, down thoughts like faulty thinking, it causes stress. Now, your body was uniquely made, and you're actually designed to be able to handle stress. Like the stress of, something's going on in work, something's going on, and your body's so clever, it creates these abilities and these ways for you to handle whatever's coming. Maybe it's a little bit of danger, or maybe it gives you a little bit more energy to be alert and active and focused on whatever it is that's coming your way. And that kind of stage one of stress is actually not a bad thing at all. Your body's designed to handle it, to cope with it. You're perfectly capable of dealing dealing with good stress, and your brain can still flourish and look like this. But the problem is, the moment that your stress life gets so much faulty thinking kicks in, now everything around you feels bad. Now, all of the way in which your brain starts to grow is no longer believing that something good can come from this, but rather now you're thinking, well, this is rubbish, this is terrible, this is gonna absolutely suck. Your life is now viewed through a lens that is really negative and biased down. And instead of looking like a tree or a plant that's flourishing, now all of these little pathways and trackways that are happening at like a nanosecond, like quantum speed level, that's faster than the speed of sound, as your thought life, as your brain is moving and growing, it looks something more like this, and it's not healthy and it's not helpful, especially when you get more and more stressed. It leads you into like what people will call stage 2 of stress, and it's like you're not happy all the time, you're negative about everything, you're biased down about everyone. Often now your thoughts are consumed with this faulty way of thinking. You're kind of maybe borderline feeling, I'm depressed, I'm feeling down, I've got no motivation, and that can happen, and you can grow those thoughts. Why? Because a thought happens when a signal is processed and then a protein's released, and then throughout your brain you are going to grow the pathways and the tramways of the thoughts that you have. I mean, what's crazy to me is it's a little bit like your brain is almost like a train track system. Imagine like the New York subway or the London Underground, or even, the underground trains that we have running here in Liverpool. Like when your brain starts to encounter all of this faulty way of thinking, what happens is that your brain becomes like that of an underground railway system with faulty signals. Everything starts to get a little bit chaotic. Everything starts to feel harder than really it should be. Like your thoughts become scrambled, a little bit foggy in the mind. You're not always able to discern what's good and what's bad, and you're certainly not able to find the positive in things, because the more negative you are, the more overwhelmingly negative you feel like you need to become, and it kind of like can spiral out of control. In fact, that's often why people end up suffering from like a mental or a physical or a behavioral illness or problem. It's because it's rooted in this faulty way of thinking, of just not being able to see the wood for the trees, so to speak, and really discern what's actually happening, because you're so centered around what's occurring to you rather than choosing the thoughts that you're going to have about what's happening in your world. And this is a problem, especially when you think that there are 20,000 branches, if you like, and on the end of every single one of these branches, there's 10 million microtubules of information that just really fills your brain and fills your head. I mean, it's just incredible. What you find is that your brain can grow and change dependent on the thoughts that you have. And how your brain grows is really your choice. You can grow it like this and be positive with words of life and uplifting, or you can choose to be negative and downcast and never see the good and never ever find anything that's lovely and pure and joyful and worthwhile. Like, you get the choice to decide which way you're going to grow your thought life. Which now, when you hear some of the science, you go, well, that makes total sense, because as a man thinks, so he builds and creates his life. As a man chooses how his thought system actually works and runs, so he builds his entire life around him. Now, I know some of you are freaking out and you're thinking like, if I come to science class on a Sunday here, I thought we were supposed to be in church. I thought we were supposed to talk about at least the Bible. So we will go there, and I promise you we'll try and make this make some sense and bring it home. So we're going to go into a passage of scripture in a moment taken from Matthew 9. And it's a story about a woman who has an issue with blood. She basically has not been able to stop bleeding for in excess of 12 years. Now, the issue of blood is a huge, huge issue in this lady's context and culture, because anybody that was deemed to be bleeding would have meant that she was ceremonially unclean. What that meant is that culturally she would have been like thrown outside the city. She wouldn't have been allowed in to the church services or to worship in the temple. She certainly wouldn't have been allowed to get near the rabbi or the religious leaders of the day. She would have almost been excommunicated because of this blood issue that she's got going on. The story, and we'll find out a little bit about this, will tell us that she struggled with this for 12 years. I mean, can you imagine how difficult that must have been for her. Like 12 years, and it tells us that she's been to numerous physicians. I mean, one can only imagine what a Near Eastern physician in the first century was doing to a lady for 12 years who's got this issue. You can only think like what she's been through must have been horrendous. And yet what we find is on one day, everything changes for this lady. Let's go Matthew 9, verse 20. It says this. Just then, a woman who had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding came up behind him, meaning Jesus. She touched the fringe of his robe, for she thought, if I can just touch his robe, I'll be healed. Jesus turned around, and when he saw her, he said, daughter, be encouraged. Your faith has made you well. And the woman was healed at that moment. Verse 21, for she thought. Her life changed almost instantaneously because of a miracle that Jesus had done with her. But that came about as a result of a touch from the hem of Jesus's garments that came out of him towards her. But that touch happened because she had a thought. She was thinking, is there a way that I can get near to the man? Is there a way that I can get near to this Jesus? She was thinking. Another translation says, for she said unto herself. In other words, she's giving herself a pep talk while the crowds are hustling and bustling and shoving around Jesus. She's thinking, she's planning, she's scheming. Is there a way? Because you've got to find one to get to Jesus. In Jesus, there could be an answer to your problem. In Jesus, there could be a breakthrough and a miracle awaiting the issue that you're facing. And it talks about how she said unto herself, like, what you say to you and what I say to myself is always going to count way more than what anybody in the world ever says to you. Like what you say to you counts more. It has more weight. It goes further. You'll put into action what you say to you way more than what anybody else says to you or encourages you with. She had a thought. In other words, it's encouraging to me that even in light of the 12 years of pain and discomfort and embarrassment and feeling like she's a disappointment, not only to herself, but to everybody else around her, her friends, her family. Maybe she had children, we don't know. Maybe she had a husband, we don't know. All these years, if I were her, I just wonder, I'm not sure that my thinking would have been able to say, if only I touched the hem of his garment. And this is just me, maybe I would have said something like, well, you know what? It's never worked before. I've had 12 years of this pain and discomfort. Nobody else has been able to do anything for me. If it didn't work back then, it's probably never going to work now. That's how my natural wiring would have made me think about this potential encounter with Jesus changing my life. But that's what's different between her and me, because she was able to somehow find a way and think in her mind, I wonder if I can just get to Jesus. I wonder if I can just touch Jesus. I wonder if I can push past the crowds. I wonder if I could risk being criticized and slammed and shamed in public. I wonder if there's a way that I can just get to Jesus. And it's inspirational to me that that whole miracle happened not because only of what Jesus did, but because of what she did too. And I think it's great that we can do series like this and say, shame off you. And like in week 1, we can say, this is a God thing. Like Romans 8 verse 1, hey, for those that are in Christ Jesus, there is now no condemnation. And that's awesome and that's cool. But you've got to know that often for shame to be off you, for disappointment to be off you, for negative thinking and negative ways to be off you, it takes you to make a choice and make a decision that I'm not going to think like that. I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to build a pattern of my life that is constantly negative and biased down and not thinking that anything good can come from this. And this story tells us that if you don't think it's possible, then for you it's probably not. You see, this woman, she was convinced something was possible, like something good can come out of this. And yet it all started in her mind. It all started in her thought process when she said, if only I can figure a way out, I think that God can do something good for me. So different to how we often live our lives, isn't it? Especially with our oftentimes faulty thinking that tells us nothing good's gonna come your way. If you've suffered like that for 10 years, it's probably going to be like that for another 10 years. And yet every time we do that, we build and create a system of thinking and memories in our own brain that looks like this. And that's counterintuitive anyway, because the more memories and thought lives you build that are like this, the more that it dramatically, adversely affects you. Think of it like this. If you go to bed and you're angry and you're frustrated and you're negative, you're biased down about everyone, that guy, that girl, that thing, that job, and you've got nothing good to say, just so you know that when you sleep and when your mind is busy in the subconscious, it's not building a tree and a plant and a healthy thing that looks like this, but rather, if it's the last thing that you think on and meditate on before you go to sleep, when you wake up, you've got 30 million new cells in your body, and it doesn't look like that. Why? Because your DNA is created, a protein is created, and then all of these pathways and trackways start to run around your brain and carry and deposit these memories and these thoughts, and it ends up looking like something which surely is not the best for you. In fact, your mind, it wasn't really designed to create toxic and negative thoughts. In fact, there's a leading scientist, he's a Nobel Prize winning scientist, he's not even a Christian, but he made this observation and he said, you know, your mind, your brain, the way that you're like configured, you were configured for love, nothing else. Like your brain struggles when you start thinking like this. Like you don't know how to handle life and family and people and job and money and everything. You're not designed to carry this. You're designed to have thoughts that are uplifting and kind and pure and joyful and good, not faulty and negative and biased down. But here's the tension, right? And I know the tension is real, because the danger is that you can kind of look at what we do from a platform and you could very easily think, well, it's all right for them, you know, doing what they did, and, you know, maybe do they expect us to follow them and their perfect life and their perfect this and perfect that? And you've got to know, like in our church, honestly, we say this to people all the time, like, don't look at us. You don't want to look at us. All we're going to do is signpoint you to Jesus, because we're just broken people trying to do the absolute best with what we've got, but pointing you towards a very perfect and an incredible God that we serve. But the bottom line is like, I think my natural wiring is often like this. Like my head works at like a hyperactive speed and it feels like it doesn't stop. And sometimes my wife and the kids say, you just need to calm down, chill out a little bit, because I feel like my head is just doing overtime all the time. It never slows down, it never rests. I'm always on something, doing something. It's fast, it's working all the time. And that's great on one hand because we get some stuff done, but then it's really bad on another hand, because often for me it feels like, man, are we doing this right? Evaluating everything all the time, analyzing everything, and you know, doing what I do as a church here. It was funny because this affected me massively in the early days of planting church. We would like rent this little space out, and man, church was terrible. There was like 18, 20 people in the room. It felt really, really weird. It was so awkward. And every single Sunday I'd like write down, you know, how many people were in the room, like 21 this week, and then the following week it'd be 19, and week after 15, and we were like, we're the only people on the planet that's ever been able to grow a church backwards. Aren't we doing a great job? And on a Monday morning, I'd get on the train and I'd go to work and go and do my day as a police officer, and I'd write down in my journal, like every single Monday on the train, I'd be like, God, and I'd be thinking about the church service that we've just had. I'd be thinking about like how no one came again and how it wasn't particularly good and we're not where we want to be and all of that sort of stuff, like thinking down, thinking negatively. And I would always write in my journal, I'd be like, God, I think that you could find somebody way better to do this than me. Like, God, in fact, I can give you the names. I'll give you their number, God. Like, seriously, I think that you can find people that would just be better at this than me. And in my head, I'm thinking like, I didn't do vicar school, reverend school, pastor school. I didn't do all that. I'm thinking like, I'm a cop. I'm not wired for this. I'm not configured for this. And it's always been like a huge deal for me. It's always been like one of those things where I've kind of gone in the back of my head, like, I just don't know. I don't know whether I'm the right guy for this. I'm not sure about this. Like, God, you should really have somebody better. And you know what? It's like, it's taken me years and years and years to kind of just get to a place where I'm on my way of feeling like remotely comfortable, just on the slithers of being comfortable doing what I'm doing. And then in 2019, right, I'm sat around a table with a bunch of my pastor friends from around Europe and some from the UK, and we're all talking about like, and at the time we were the only ones that had planted a church and started a church from scratch. Everyone else had like taken churches on, and I was just talking about how like, man, I dream of being involved in church planting. Like somehow, somewhere, you cut me open, you cut my brain open. Every single one of these tracks, no matter how weird and disfigured my brain would look, but most of them would be about church building and church planting, right? So I'm saying like, I'd love to be involved in church planting, and everybody else around the table was like, man, we should do something. And we were saying, can we not do something together where we all pool a bit of something and we just commit to seeing life-giving, thriving churches around the United Kingdom and Europe too? Like, wouldn't that be an amazing thing to be involved in? And we were all like, yeah, let's do it. And one of our friends said to me, you know what, I know an absolutely fantastic church planting network, and they're doing stuff around the world. We should partner with them. Do you want to do it? And I was like, absolutely, yes, let's do it. So this guy flies over from America and he brings his family, and he's like the most perfect person on the planet. Like, he's just like incredible. He's awesome. His wife's awesome. His kids are great. They're like the annoying family because everything is so perfect. They've got like the white teeth and everything. And like, you know what? They're all amazing at sport. They're all intellectually brilliant. They're just off the chart. They're just really incredible people. And we hang out for a couple of days, did some dinners, talked church, talked life, talked church planting. And man, I was buzzing. This to me felt like so great. It felt so awesome. I was like so excited to do this whole thing. And on the very last day when we were making some decisions about how we were going to do this, I said to my friend, we were in the executive lounge of this arena at the very back, and we're having this conversation. I said, like, how do you think it's going? Are we going to do this thing? Are we going to start to plant some churches around the UK and around Europe? Are we going to do it? Like, we're going to do this thing? And he's just like, I don't think so. I'm going, what do you mean you don't think so? Like, we've had a great few days and their family and blah, blah, this is great, right? And he goes, no. I said, what do you mean no? And he just goes, he doesn't want to do it with you. I said, okay, I can handle that, no big drama. So I said to him, so why? And then he said these 5 words that have shaped my thinking for the past 2 years of my life. He said, because he says that you don't have any potential. Any. And if that word any wasn't in there, I could have stomached that. But that word any, which I promise you one day will be a title of a book, but that word any absolutely ruined me for the best part of 2 years. I said, any potential? I said, like, not even a tiny bit? I took myself home from that arena, in fact, back to a hotel, which was miles away. I didn't want to get a cab, I wanted to walk. I called in at the world's dodgiest corner shop, and I bought myself these 4 green cans. Obviously, they were Sprite, and I ordered a Domino's pizza, and it was massive. And I went back to the hotel, and I had a proper little pity party just for one until Emma got in, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, what is the matter with you? And I was like, don't talk to me. I don't want to talk to anybody. And she's like, what is going on with you? Like, how was the thing? I was like, this has been the worst day of my life. I want it to end right now. This is crazy. I don't like this. And she's like going like, what is going on? And I told her the story. And for like 2 years, I've never told anybody that story until when we were out in America, back end of 2019. Some pastor friends of ours, I was telling them this story. And he reached across the table to me and he just said to me, you do know that that's not right though, don't you? And I was like, actually, no. And he goes, you know that that's not right. You have some faulty thinking there. I mean, I'm not going to deny that it wasn't said to you, but that's not how it actually is. It's how you see it, but that's not actually how it is. And I can remember for absolutely weeks following, I would say to Emma every single Sunday, like, I don't want to preach. I don't want to do it. You can preach. Don't want to stand on the platform. Don't want to do it. don't want to do it. You do it, please. She'd be like, nope, I'm not doing it. You can do it. You're down to do it. Nope. I'm like, yeah, cheers, hon. And I kind of realized that this is really what my thinking had started to look like. And it was one day I'd made the decision that I was like, God, I've had enough. Like, I can't cope with thinking like this, thinking that I'm not good enough, thinking that I'm a disappointment, thinking that I've let the team down, thinking that I've let my friends down. I can't cope with that. And literally, it felt like God was doing nothing, saying nothing. And then I walked out of my office and I saw this picture. And this picture, me and Dave Alex baptizing a girl at the front of our church. And I'm staring at this picture and I said, I might not have any potential, but that's worth giving my life to. That's worth sacrificing for. That's worth giving for. That's worth sowing every element of energy and effort and resource that I've got for the rest of my life, changing lives for Christ, one life at a time. And you know what the crazy thing is? This is how it went, right? It felt to me like once I'd started to get my thinking under control and stop thinking all of the negative thoughts and just start to be open that maybe God could do something new in a new way. You know that guy? He reached out to me and he said, look, I don't know what happened. The whole thing went wrong. He said, but I am so sorry. I don't know how that got relayed to you. This is wrong. This is crazy. Do you want to start a thing and we'll plant some churches in the UK and Europe? And I was like, are you for real? This is crazy. But the thing is that oftentimes we don't get to where we want to be because we end up living with a broken and a faulty mindset that gets so wrapped up in our own pessimistic ways, our own negative ways. And I think that there comes a point where we've got to recognize and understand, actually, as a man thinks, so is his life. So, this is what I want you to do. If you struggle with maybe thinking negatively, feeling like you're a disappointment, feeling like you're carrying the weight of the shame of disappointing others around you, you've got to reprogram your brain. And the only way you can do that is by building new habits and create new pathways. And the way that you do that is by spending 16 minutes every single day for 21 days. And you've got to do that 3 times. So we get to 63 days of you spending 16 minutes a day where you're not reading, you're not writing, no mobile devices, and you sit still and you daydream. And I like to try and hold some conversation with God. And you just try and empty your mind. In fact, if you want an anxious-free life, that is a habit that neuroscientists will tell you is the best thing that you can do. 16 minutes a day to clear your mind. Think positive things. Eliminate the negativity, the pessimistic, the biased down way of thinking in your life. Get rid of it. 16 minutes every single day for 21 days. Do it 3 times to 63, because it's 63 days it takes to build a habit. People think it's 21. It's not. It's 21 days to kind of like start some reprogramming. But in order for your brain to think differently and grow differently and look more like this than this, it's going to take 63 days of you choosing. And the bottom line is, no one's going to do it for you. What I say is not going to help you, but what you say to you is going to help you. What you encourage you to do is going to help you, because as a man thinks, so he builds his life. Church, time has gone. Let me pray for you. Father in heaven, I am asking you today that for every single one of us gathered in this space, in this room, that Lord, that you would help us in the areas and the times when we struggle with faulty thinking. Lord, I pray that in the times when we feel the weight of feeling negative or biased down or pessimistic, Lord, I pray that you would remind us that there are pathways of life that are good and healthy and pure and joyful that are held in you. Lord, help us to grow a framework for our thinking that believes that the good is still yet to come, that no matter what we're facing, no matter what the diagnosis is, no matter what the report is, that God, that we believe that something good can come from this, so that we get our thinking under control, so that shame comes off us, so that we eliminate the faulty thinking and end up living and building the healthy life that we dream of. And we ask it all in Jesus' mighty name. But with every head bowed and every eye closed, just as I pray this one final prayer, this is for any single one of you that's never made a decision to follow Jesus. I'm going to pray a prayer right now, and this is your moment of you saying, I want to make a decision right now to trust God, to follow Him, to become a Christian. As I say this prayer, pray this prayer in your heart, and then I would say you're going to embark upon a real and authentic relationship with him. So let us pray, and then we're going to stand and worship. Lord, I come to you right now, believing that you're real and wanting to get to know you more. I need you in my life. I don't want to do it on my own. So I'm putting my trust in you. I'm believing that you're real. I'm believing that Jesus' life was given on a cross for me so that I could know you. So now through my faith in Jesus, would you make me clean? Remove the shame, remove the sin. As from this day forth, I'm choosing to follow you. And as I call myself a Christian, I'm making you the Lord of my life. Amen. Let's worship, church.
Nothing else will do, and I just want you. Nothing else will do, and I just want you. And nothing else will do, and I just want you. Oh, nothing else will do. So I'm caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessing. Jesus, you don't owe me anything more than anything that you can do. And I just want you. Now I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. And I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. 'Cause I'm caught up in your presence. I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, and nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, and nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, oh, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. 'Cause I just want you, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. I just want you, oh, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will do. Nothing else but you, no one but you, Jesus. Call on you now. Would you meet us here? Let us know you, no one but you, Jesus. Give you all the worship, all the glory to you. And how great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. And how great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see how great is our God. Oh, He's the name above all names. You are worthy of all praise, and my heart will sing how great is our God. How great is our God. How awesome is He. How great you are. How wonderful you are. How glorious you are, Jesus. Come on, church. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will see
up and let's sing this last song together. This is where my heart will beat again. This is where I get set free. This is where your love is calling me. I'm ready, yeah, I'm ready to cross over the line, leave it all behind. Nothing's gonna keep me here. Oh, until I see a change, I'm lifting up your name. There's freedom in the atmosphere. Oh, I feel like dancing, I feel like praising you, 'cause I know this is my breakthrough. I'm gonna see you move. This is my breakthrough. This is my breakthrough. I'm gonna break through. This is where your word takes hold of me. This is where my fear lets go. Your spirit is alive inside of me. I'm ready, yeah, I'm ready to cross over the line, leave it all behind. Nothing's gonna keep me here. Oh, until I see a change, I'm lifting up your name. There's freedom in the atmosphere. Oh, I feel like dancing, I feel like praising you, 'cause I know this is my breakthrough. I'm gonna see you move. And oh, I feel like dancing, I feel like praising you, 'cause I know this is my breakthrough. I'm gonna see you move. This is my breakthrough. This is my breakthrough. I'm gonna break through. I'll keep on dancing, I'll keep on singing, I'll keep on praising you. I'll keep on dancing, I'll keep on singing, I'll keep on breaking through. I'll keep on dancing, I'll keep on singing, I'll keep on praising you. I'll keep on dancing, I'll keep on singing, I'll keep on breaking through. And oh, I feel like dancing, I feel like praising you, 'cause I know this is my breakthrough. I'm gonna see you move. And oh, I feel like dancing, I feel like praising you, 'cause I know this is my breakthrough. I'm gonna see you move. This is my breakthrough. This is my breakthrough. I'm gonna break through.
Wow. What an incredible service today, guys. Take your seats. Hey, I don't know where that message found you, whether you came in today with a heavy heart because you struggle with a negative mindset. Well, be encouraged, because like Luke said, we get to choose. We get to choose what voices we listen to. We get to choose to have that positive, that healthy mind. And I believe we can do that through Christ's strength. But hey, what an incredible message. And if you made that decision today to trust Jesus, to put your faith in him, to become a Christian, then that is the greatest decision you will ever make. And we celebrate that here at Liverpool One Church.
So good. And hey, we do celebrate that decision today. But hey, church, we've come to that part of our service. Right now, we get to honor God with our finances. All the ways that you can do that will come up on the screen behind me. But you know, I was just reflecting this week. I've been coming out of this church for probably about 8 years, give or take. And I just remember back to those days, there was a faithful few people that decided intentionally to plant a seed financially to help church flourish, to help church grow. And you know what? Without those people, I don't think any of us would be here today. And I just think it's a principle that I think is so good and so relevant really for today's message, where we get to plant a seed, see it flourish and see it grow into something so much more. And I just want to say, from us to you, for those of you that do partner with us week in, week out to make this thing possible, we just want to say a heartfelt thank you. We wouldn't want to do it without you guys. And it's through that small sacrifice of planting that financial seed that God promises in His Word to bring back to you in tenfold and everything that you've given Him. So today, be encouraged by that. We thank you for your generosity. We thank you for your giving. And church, right now you'll have the opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, we won't be able to pass around buckets or anything like that, obviously with money and COVID and everything else, but there are practical ways that you can give. So guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. We love you so much. And hey, we'll be right back here soon, won't we?
Yes, that's all we've got time for today. But next week we have our 3 services again. So if you're watching online, we want you in the room. Get your tickets. They come on sale today or online at 2 o'clock. So guys, get your tickets because we would love to see you here next week. But guys, have a great week.